I must say it has been quite an interesting start to the year for me in the space that I play in. So as you know, and those on the call that do know me, I like to play in both spaces. So I like to work with individuals in their personal capacity, and then I obviously work in organizations as well, primarily around relationship dynamics. So relationship with self, relationship in our personal spaces, relationships in our professional spaces.
I've been a spiritual coach in the holistic field for almost 15 years now, I think, for a very long time. And that's where I like to play. I love to play with divine guidance. I love to empower people to tap into the divine that is there for us all the time. And we have so much more within us than what we realize. And for me, that's the space where I play and love to help others to do the same. For me, I think a big shift was, and I think we all must give ourselves credit for how adaptable we truly are and how far we've come. We don't have any expectations of the year being different, but we have a strong intention to make it different. And that's where I am. And I think, I think we all are much more resilient than what we give ourselves credit for. I think we all are in a way better acceptance vibration than last year. And the most important thing is the intention, isn't it? We're not concerned about the results anymore. We're concerned about the intention that we carry towards what we're doing. And that's huge. So that's pretty much been my intro to the year.
And there definitely has been a shift that I'm seeing where intentions are concerned. So from a corporate or organizational space, I'm definitely seeing a shift where mental health is becoming a priority, and a lot of corporates are taking that more seriously than before. And I say this respectfully, but a lot of corporates did a tick box exercise where it was, we'll do an annual wellness day, we'll check your blood pressure, and we'll give you a leaflet, and then we'll send you off and say, there we go, we've taken care of your health and well-being. And they're now realizing that mental health and wellness is a daily necessity and not a luxury, and that if we are not well, we're not able to function and be productive and deliver. And of course, with home now being the workplace, with a lot of people working from home, we're now having to manage those dynamics, and corporates are now managing someone in their personal, intimate space, which is the home environment, where before we could escape home and leave work behind. Yes. And now we're not able to do that because work is our home. And so there's a lot of shift coming around that in terms of, which I'm loving, of course, is bringing the human back into not only the digital space, because we're obviously now in a digital space, but just life in general. Yes. We're all human. And, we have dogs and kids and cats and all of those things and spouses and whatever else. And we're seeing the real side of employees, but also employers and bosses, and that they're human too. People are really, I think, and this is where we started chatting around the intention side was, people thought, we just need to get through December and into the new year and leave this horrible year behind us, and we'll start with a clean slate, right? Yeah. Only to realize it was more of the same.
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of disappointment and a lot of, oh my word, how are we going to cope with more of this? And a lot of people are like, hello, this is not the new normal. This is the normal, because we are a year down the line already in terms of COVID, and it ain't going away anytime soon. So how do we now kind of get on with life and really start living life in this new normal, which is the old new normal?
Yes.
So welcome to the people that have just joined us. We're awesome to have you here. We really love an engaging discussion. So please feel free to post comments or questions in the chat group. We will happily answer them if we can. If we don't have the answer, I'm speaking to myself. If I don't have the answer, I will go find it and I will come back to you. I think Michelle has deeper insights and answers than what I do. So
also go back and find them.
We will gladly come back. We are, as always, we are also recording the session, so we will send a link out afterwards as well if you missed something and you want to go back and just recap on it or look at it, as well as sharing our contact details if you want to get in touch with us.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. So, Michelle, let's kind of kick off, because I think the one thing that a lot of people have struggled with from both of our areas and angles that we come from is how do I keep my faith and hope up when the world is upside down, when it's uncertain, when I don't really have direction, because I'm not sure how long this pandemic is going to last, but I still want to live life, and I want to make plans, so to speak.
Yes. I think the biggest thing there is if you try, the first thing is you still have to believe that your dream or your vision is possible. That's the starting point. We have to know that whatever's happening in the external world, that is always and will always be temporary. So for a lot of things, our how has changed. And I think that's where it becomes difficult to keep on believing in what it is that you want to be, what it is that you want to be doing, and then to let the how go as reality unfolds. So that's a big thing. And I think when we want to keep the hope up or the faith up is to stay close to that vision, stay close to, I've designed vibe buddies for this year that can help you to stay close, because if you're going to keep on trying to, I must be positive, I must be positive, I must be positive, you put so much attention on the fact that you're struggling with it, that you're not positive at all. And I think we have to relax, we have to be kind to ourselves, we have to know that we're going to have positive and negative days, and we have to keep our minds and our hands busy with those things that's aligned to our vision. So the focus is more internal than external. The focus is more on who am I sharing my vibration with, rather than allowing the vibration, the feelings, the news, the whatever being dictated to me from outside. So for me, that's the biggest thing, is what do you occupy yourself with, and who are you spending time with? In any situation, we've got positive people, we've got negative people. And in any situation, you choose where you want to be. This is a big global scale situation. We still, though, have our internal island. We still have our group, our kindred spirit, our family, our connection base. So stay focused there. Make the circle a little bit smaller until you're stronger to face the external happenings. So I found that was a big part. We'll go into more tips later, but for me, that's the starting point, is to, when you want to keep your faith and your hope up, is remember that your vision is not dependent on the global picture. That is temporary. And I think for you, Paula, you mentioned something about critical skills that we can develop to help us thrive. And I think that will align a lot to this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, support structures is a big thing that I always talk about, whether it's in your personal space or in the professional space. And those support structures are those people that we can turn to in terms of leaning on them when we're going through a tough time or a tough patch, or celebrating good things. It doesn't matter how small they might be. And as humans, we're very much kind of stigmatized, stereotyped to only when it's something huge and big do we celebrate it. We very seldom celebrate the small little things that happen in our life, the small little wins, the small successes. And, you know, it's those small little things that we celebrate. So, for example, if you've come through this year so far and you haven't had COVID yet, consider it a success. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get it, because eventually at some point we are all going to get it. But the fact that you've made it through a year and you haven't had it yet, that in itself is a success and a celebration. If you still have, you know, your job or your business and you know, and I'm not saying we haven't been impacted. We all have in terms of revenue and that kind of thing. But if you still have those things, so health, if you're still able to, you know, pay your bills, you've got your family, those kind of things, those are wins in themselves, considering the trying times that we've been going through. And I think this is where setting intentions for the new year, a lot of us people go for the New Year's resolutions. So I'm not a New Year's resolution kind of person. I'm like, you can set a goal anytime you want. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the year in January to set a goal, you know. It's the intention behind the goal. And if for you January works, well, that's great. But sometimes that can also be a cop-out, because I'll do it next year, I'll do it next week, or I'll do it this, or I'll do it that, you know. What are you waiting for? If you want to do something, do it now. Set the intention and do it. And so part of setting that intention and starting the new year is, I think what COVID has taught me is the difference between what's valuable and what's important. And for me, important, and I never realized how much it was important to me until it was taken away. So things like freedom of movement. Yes. Independence to go where I want, do what I want, when I want. So the curfews, for example. The socialization, obviously, in terms of family and friends. And just being able to go outdoors. So I'm a sporty, active kind of person. I'm a runner. I like to go out for my morning run. It sets the tone for my day. It puts me in a positive frame of mind, all those kind of things. And when that was taken away from me, I was like, holy moly, what do I do now? You know? So I realized what was important to me, what I really valued. But I also realized how much importance we placed on stuff that we don't need. Like, we don't need, there's so much material stuff or things we've realized that we can do without. You know, we've all spoken about lockdown here. And, you know, we've done away with the manicures and the pedicures and all those kind of things because we realize it's just stuff. And we've realized what's more important. And so, yeah, part of those skills in terms of, you know, building the resilience, which is one of the 3 critical skills, is we've had to become resilient. And all resilience is, I mean, it's thrown around like this big word, this big thing that you have to learn and you have to develop. But resilience really ultimately at a basic level is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Absolutely. And we've been uncomfortable for a year already with all of this uncertainty. And it's really about kind of going with the flow and being flexible and adaptable as each day or situation unfolds, and not letting the situation get the better of you or controlling you, but you're being in control of the situation. And resilience is really just being comfortable with being uncomfortable and managing to manage those patches without your emotions getting the better of you.
Yes. You know what I've found with intention specifically? So the intentions also have changed to become almost a daily thing. So just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I have the intention to be kind. Just for today, I have the intention to do one little thing that's an improvement on yesterday. Just for today. And, you know, you can still have an intention to say, well, if you don't have a job right now, if you lost your job, you set an intention to have a job. You set the intention to go for interviews. No matter what the external says, you set your intention and then you release it. More than that for me, I think, is this little daily, like you said, the daily steps, the daily recognition. It takes your energy away from everything that's not happening And it keeps you in the present moment. And the more you do this, because you now, what we say is raise your vibration. So now every day you start feeling a little better than yesterday, and then you're feeling a little bit more better than yesterday. So eventually you will be better with a positive gratitude energy, and that will then quite easily bring what you manifest to you. So I think, and that's what we've learned, isn't it? I mean, one thing that provides cash flow, and I'm speaking about love cash flow, is acts of kindness, is gratitude. And never before have we been so kind to one another. So if you're struggling or things not working out for you, and you focus your attention on these small, big things, everything around you changes. And that's a huge coping mechanism for today.
Definitely. People, and we've realized that how much we appreciate and value human connection.
Yes.
And we've seen it, and there's enough stats and data and research out there to validate it, that we are obviously social creatures. And that in fact there was a pandemic long before COVID hit that nobody was talking about, and that was the chronic loneliness pandemic. And the global studies have been done on it, and that the impact of chronic loneliness on our immune system is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Which makes it more severe than obesity.
Sure. That's huge.
But we do campaigns against obesity, and we do campaigns against cigarettes and smoking and tobacco and how bad it is for you, but nobody talks about this other pandemic, which is chronic loneliness. But since COVID has come about, it's been quite topical, particularly the elderly and people that live alone and on their own. And we've realized how important that social interaction and connection is.
Yes. One thing that I've also realized, speaking of the normal or the new normal or the old normal or what it is, I think when we, for example, speak about it was always social contact and now everything's online. And I think what helps is also to turn it around into the new thing is not opposite from the normal. It is just new. It's just another way. Because I think, what I find in my one-on-one with clients is that it's more the resistance of what's changed that makes me sick or sad or depressed, rather than just saying, okay, now it is this way. So you kick less against the change, and you move more into an acceptance of, oh, now we're having an online retreat. How fabulous is that? Or I can say, I'm so upset because I cannot have retreats anymore. And I think that shift is quite important. And I know you have also assisted people with trying to define what is the new normal and what does it mean, and isn't it a lot of it our perception, our definition to what it is for us?
Yeah, that's where we fall into that trap of, I call it analysis paralysis,
yes,
where we compare ourselves to everything else and everyone else. So on a relationship point of view, we look at other couples out there and go, oh, they have such a wonderful, amazing relationship. They have the perfect family. They live the perfect lifestyle. They drive the fancy cars, the overseas holidays, whatever it is. But we don't know what's really going on behind closed doors. A lot of the time people put on this facade that, everything looks great and cool and fine, but behind closed doors is falling apart. Yes. Or behind closed doors, they are living beyond their means and they're indebted up to the eyeballs. Mm. Or that, they have the perfect career, but meanwhile they're in such a toxic environment that it's taking everything out of them, energy, emotion, all of that. Mm. And So when it comes to, what defines us and what does success look like and what does balance look like, there is no answer for you because yours is different to me.
Absolutely.
And so my version of balance will be very different to yours because I'm not living your life and your lifestyle and your responsibilities and whatever it is that you've got.
Yes, yes.
And that's, we spoke about hope earlier, and you know me, I love to use acronyms. So for me, hope stands for have only positive intentions.
Beautiful. Yes.
And it's really about that mindset, that intention of every situation I go into, whether it's my relationship, whether it's the workplace or something else, is how do I find the positive in it? How do I look for that positive, even if it is a negative situation? Because there's always something to learn about myself, about the other person or persons, or about the situation itself. Yes. And how do I use those insights to move me forward as part of my own growth and development and evolving through life and life stages?
Yes. And I think it's, and it's like now, people can also say, I'm so tired, I'm zoomed out, I'm zoomed out, I'm exhausted. It's worse if we compare it to how it's always been. Or we can just say, I had beautiful connections with people today, I am zoomed out, but I'm so grateful that there's a vehicle for connection. So tomorrow I'm going to take off and have a tech break, and then I'll connect again on Wednesday. So it's about that. It's about putting the vibration to something that you choose that's going to make your world positive, as about to fighting against what was all the time. Because if we keep on wanting the what was, how are we ever going to grow? How are we ever going to evolve into the new? And for me, that's a big thing when it comes to staying positive or raising your vibration, to cope despite what's happening out there in the world. I'm not even going to say the real world, because the real world is what's happening in your heart, in your life, with your immediate family, with your life, with your vision, with your intentions, with your miracles, with your blessings. That's your real world. Out there is just events and circumstances changing, renewing itself, whatever, and it shall pass. It will definitely pass.
Yeah. And I see Daryl says, I find there is a lot more negativity around me, which lowers my vibration. Absolutely. And that's, I think, where one of the other 3 critical skills that we'll need to develop to get through this year and thrive this year is around the self-discipline, in terms of what am I allowing into my space. So whether it's in my thoughts or whether it's my emotions, and how is that impacting me positively or negatively? And that's where boundaries come in. So whether it's boundaries in your personal space, whether it's boundaries from a workplace in terms of that's at 6 o'clock shut off time, I'm not allowing it to blur into my personal space and take over and invade my personal space or my me time or my downtime or digital detox time, wherever it might be, because we've realized that self-care is so important and me time is not selfish anymore. It's critical.
Absolutely. Maybe I can come in here with the vibe buddies, and I chose the term vibe buddies specifically for you to buddy up with similar vibration. If social media is your vibe buddy, know that your vibration is gonna be lower. Appoint a buddy and contract with them and say, you are my vibe buddy. And so when I feel like venting, I phone you. When you feel like venting, you phone me. So it's a nice partner in crime, but you understand one another and you help each other up. Things like communities or webinars like this, or Facebook pages that lift you up. Obviously, balance, discipline, boundaries is important, because social media is not a good vibe buddy at all. But choose your audience. Choose the people that you give your precious energy to. And it's no longer selfish. You're protecting your vibration. you're filling up, you're caring for yourself, because that's the only way you are able to care for others. You cannot do an act of kindness if you don't feel fulfilled, if you don't feel positive. You cannot smile to a bypasser if your vibration is low. So doing this and making these decisions for yourself helps to give to others.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah, and you know, depending on whether it's in your personal space or your professional space, you know, you can a vibe buddy can be the equivalent of a mentor or a role model.
Yes.
I call it your circles of influence, and
Yes.
as you know, we become the collective sum of the 5 people that we spend most of our time with. So if you think about your personal space, who do you interact with and engage with on a personal level? So friends and family and whoever it is. And then in the workplace, who do you surround yourself in the workplace? Because that is your circle of influence. And they're either going to influence you positively or negatively, and vice versa. How are you influencing them?
Yes.
And what is that doing for your health and well-being on all levels? But also what's becoming more and topical and important in the professional world is your personal brand. Your personal brand is becoming more important than your CV, actually. And I work with quite a lot of recruiters, and the first thing they do when they get a CV is they type your name into Google and they look to see what comes up in terms of your footprint.
Daryl?
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's a very interesting exercise to do for everybody here. If you haven't done it in a while or before, go and put your name into Google and press search and see what comes up. And imagine whether you're a professional person or whatever it is, put yourself in your prospective audience's shoes or customers' shoes and see what comes up through their eyes, and what is that saying about you and your personal brand and your reputation.
Yep.
Give us the lowdown, Daryl. Come on, tell us.
Well, yeah, it can be a bit shocking and interesting at times, because obviously one can lie on their CV. So you do go into Google and check, you know, their profile. You go into their Facebook, what sort of posts are they posting? What is their attitude like? And I don't think people know that. People think they send their CV to a recruitment consultant, and the recruitment consultant goes according to what's on the CV. And we don't. There's so much more, because it's our reputation at the end of the day. Because, I mean, we can't just put anybody in front of the client. Your CV, I mean, people lie on their CV all the time. So we need to do further investigations. I mean, like I said, we've got our name to hold up with the client.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very interesting.
And you know, talking about this, I think everything that we said revolves a lot around, you know, staying positive and who you surround yourself with and what you occupy your mind with. At the same time, I think we must also allow ourselves the downtime. You know, we mustn't also be so hard on ourselves when we are a little bit down. I think that's when your vibe buddy will help, or your mentor. But, you know, someone for me that shows their vulnerability, that asks for help, that shows immense strength. And I think we mustn't also shy away from asking for help, from saying, I'm drowning, guys. That, you know, that is so important. And, you know, we think that we will be ridiculed or judged, but people have a lot of admiration for someone's integrity when they display that type of thing. And I think that is also how we can then discern between the people in our lives. And we learn from them. When someone else asks, we respect them. We will do everything to help them, to support them. So I think that for me is also one of the big things to help you cope.
Absolutely. You know, and one of the areas that has taken huge strain during this whole pandemic, and that is obviously around relationships, and particularly in the home front, and juggling that dynamic, because as I said before, the home has now become the workplace, and we don't have our safe space or sacred space to hide away from, or to run away, or just get away from work and leave work there. And so it does feel like our space has been invaded, and it does put an impact on our relationships with our partners, and obviously with kids if we have kids. And how do we manage that dynamic? You know, and I always say to people, you know what, expect conflict or friction. It's going to happen. It's a normal part of life. It's a normal part of a relationship, whether it's personal or professional. When you've got two people in the room, without a doubt, there is going to be conflict. And when we hear the word conflict, we think of this huge screaming match, fighting, uproar, you know, all these kind of things. But it's not. Conflict is simply you and I have a different view and opinion. That's what conflict is. Yes. It can be as simple and as basic as that, or it can be on the extreme where it can be very toxic and ugly and destroying and destructive. So I think, you know, for couples, I think, you know, cut each other a bit of slack. There is going to be friction. There is going to be moments where one of you is coping and one of you is not. But that's what relationships is. It's a partnership. You're there to lift each other up, or to help each other's vibes and vibration come up, and connection, you know. And the biggest thing is communication and talking about it. And so you were talking about asking for help. And often we are afraid to ask for help because we see it as a sign of weakness, or a sign that, you know what, I can't just pull myself towards myself and get through this, you know. And it's that puts so much pressure on ourselves, in terms of, you know, having to have it all together and perfect. And we put this, you know, the perfect life, perfect wife or partner, perfect family, perfect kids, perfect career, perfect everything. And there is no such thing as perfect. We are all perfectly imperfect. So how do we embrace that? And show the kindness and the compassion and the love that we all deserve as humankind.
And I think one thing that, you know, that came out for me in the family work, because obviously you have the couples, you have the families that's all together during lockdown, is one thing I think that this period can teach us is to allow others to be the freedom of who they are. Maybe we didn't really know who they were because they were at work the whole day. We were rushing past each other. So how about bring a game in, bring a conversation in where you almost like playfully introduce yourselves. And one of the things that came out in the guidance for this year specifically was laughter and joy. And there are so many ways that we can bring that lightness of spirit into the family unit, into a relationship that says, oh, well, seeing now that we're in this together, seeing now that we nearly bit each other's heads off last week, how about we just get to know each other again, or something like that. But I think we have to open ourselves up more to get to know who you are, to get to know who your child really is. I think we're trying to mold, we're trying to work together, we're trying to live together. And again, it's that pit, that resistance to, it never was like this, and now it's like this. So it's more the resistance to the change than the dynamics that's actually happening inside. And as you as the mother or the father or the child go through fears and insecurity, there's certain aspects of yourself that you discover that you never knew you had. But your children are going through the same, and your husband or your partner is going through the same. And I think if we can allow conversation time, play time, game time to explore this, it's another shift into saying, we're not resisting how it always was. We're finding a new way for us that work. So then no one can resist the fact that we're forced into this. It's just a different energy that you bring in to the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just if anybody's got any questions they want to ask us or comments on what we've chatted so far, please feel free to unmute yourself or pop it in the chat group. We really love being interactive and engaging. And we want you to get the value out of this session as well. So if there are any particular questions or comments, and you don't even have to agree with us, you can tell us no, absolutely not, you disagree, and that's okay too. All of those thoughts and that are welcome. But yeah, so while we're waiting to see if anybody has got anything they want to share or say, coming back to those 3 critical skills that I think we all are going to need to, it's going to be critical for us to develop these 3 skills to get through this year based on how everybody coped or didn't cope with last year. And those 3 critical skills, I've mentioned 2 already, is resilience, and it's self-leadership, and it's self-discipline.
Yes.
And so really, basically, in a nutshell, self-leadership is the ability to influence your own thoughts and behavior in order to achieve your goals, whether it's your personal goals or whether it's your organization's goals and objectives. And that's where it's going to have, particularly working, from home. A lot of people are not used to working remotely. A lot of people are feeling lost working remotely. They're not used to an unstructured environment. So people have struggled with that a bit. But we've also, a lot of people have found a new rhythm and a new routine. So self-leadership is going to be critical because we're going to have to constantly find ways of influencing our own thoughts and our own behaviors to achieve our personal goals or our business goals. And then resilience, as I said earlier, it's just really, at a basic level, it's the ability to adapt to difficult situations and managing our emotions in the process to be able to keep functioning. In other words, not get into that wheel spin cycle or that negativity cycle. And then the self-discipline comes in terms of finding a really compelling reason or intention, whichever way you want to put it, to do something and to commit to finishing it through to the end. So whether it's a daily task, getting through your to-do list or your goals or your deliverables, whatever it is, and what I've put in place for myself, because I've also realized I'm only human, believe it or not. And some days when I struggle, I give myself the task of 3. If there's 3 things that I can accomplish today and just get them done, it doesn't matter how big or small they are, if I can just get through 3 things today, then that in itself makes today a success. And if it's as simple as returning an email or filing admin or cleaning out the Tupperware cupboard, it doesn't matter. The fact that I've just accomplished 3 things gives me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of achievement, a sense of a boost of positivity that I've managed to do something that's productive.
Yes. And I want to add to that, in terms of those critical skills, I just want to you've got to maybe add to that ways to raise my vibration. How can I feel better today? That's very important to also take care of that part. The accomplishments will make you, it will make you feel better. It will make you feel that you've contributed positively to this day. And also add to that ways to raise your vibration. And those are simple. That can be having a chat with your vibe buddy, putting on the music and dance around in the room. It can be read a book, it can be take a nap. It can be, I've got a thing that I call 17 seconds, which is a way that you can speak yourself into a better mood for a period of 17 seconds. Because if we hold an emotion for longer than 17 seconds, that emotion clicks in. And very often we hold the vibration of sadness or worry or anxiety a lot longer than that. And then we wonder why it's so difficult to reframe it or to shift it. So try holding the feeling of joy for longer than 17 seconds. Try holding the feeling of love or gratitude or kindness for a period of 17 seconds. You will do the next task feeling loved or feeling grateful. And I think that's also can link up with the self-leadership. Because once we've done it, we can show someone else to do it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the amazing part of this,
Yeah, we become a support structure for others, because when you're in a good space, in a positive space, you can uplift someone else, and vice versa. When you're in a bad space, someone else around you that you tap into, your vibe buddy or your mentor, your partner, or whoever it might be, a friend, can help lift you up.
And we mustn't forget also to keep on manifesting. Have your vision, have your goals, have your dreams. Keep your mind busy with that vision. Even if there's nothing that you can do about it now, but keep it alive. Keep it alive in your mind's eye. Keep it alive in your vision. That's so important, because hope comes from there. You bring positive energy into your day, and you have this knowing that it's still there. Life is still there, and it will unfold in good time. And that I've found is a huge, huge help also for people that I've worked with that feel hopeless and, I've got nothing left. If you have a vision, you have a life left. And we mustn't forget to keep on holding our vision.
So I see Daryl says, I find that grounding myself helps me raise my vibration. So I'm curious, Daryl, how do you ground yourself? What are some of the tips or tricks or tools that you use?
So what I generally do is I'll go outside and then I'll take my shoes off. It's either two things, that I'll go for a walk, and then I would literally nature shows me things that I don't even realize, and I take these pictures, it's like nature, it's just like beautiful flower, whatever. Or another thing I do is I go outside and I take my shoes off and I literally put my feet on the grass and I just feel Mother Earth taking all that negativity out from the bottom of my feet. So that helps me feel so much better when I feel low.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature is always been one of the key things to kind of help us feel grounded. So whether it's gardening, in fact, that's one of the things that we started this year, is we planted a vegetable garden. So that was one of our things of being grounded and being in nature, touching kind of Mother Earth, so to speak. Yeah. But I'm curious if anyone else has got any other tips on how you keep grounded and how you restore your energy levels. Please do feel free to share your tips, because we can learn from each other here. Because, and that's something that came out of COVID or out of last year was, and carrying it into this year, is the tips and tricks that might have worked for us last year may not be as effective this year, because it worked for us then, and then it worked for us then, but now actually it's not working anymore. So we need to find more tips and tricks and tools and things that can help us build the resilience, that can help us with self-discipline and self-leadership, can help us with our intentions or our focus and our goals. And when it comes to setting goals, for me personally, how I like to do it is I like to focus on 3 areas. I like to focus on personal development for myself. So something for myself, whether it's skills or knowledge or a course or a this or a that. I like to look at from a professional point of view, so upskilling myself whether it's a business point of view, whether it's professional development, whatever it is. And then because I'm a sporty, active kind of person, I usually have a health goal, which is running related. And so those are my 3 categories. And the way that I look at it is, if I can achieve a minimum of 1 goal under each of those 3 areas, then technically speaking, I should have grown holistically, because I should have grown with skills, I should have grown with knowledge or experience, and I should have grown from a health perspective, which holistically puts me in a good space or a positive space, and I've shifted forward from where I was. So that's how I like to approach, and it's not necessarily the beginning of the year, but when I come to setting goals. And those categories don't necessarily have to work for you, but find what works for you. And you can have more than one goal under each of those categories, I'm the kind of person that less is more, because the more goals you set for yourself, the more it can become overwhelming. And then we end up falling off the bus and we don't achieve our goals because, oh no, this is just, it's too much, it's too hard, it's too this, it's too that. So I'm from the less is more school. But hey, everybody's journey is different. So you've got to find what works for you. And then how do you break down those goals into small little actionable bite-sized steps, depending on what the goal is? Because sometimes we often look at this big goal and we look over there and that I've got to achieve that. And it looks too far away. So I like to use the analogy of, because this is a common thing that comes up in the groups that I run, is people always want to get fit and losing weight, as an example. And you know, it's always like, oh, I want to lose 10 kgs, or I want to lose this, I want to lose that. I'm like, okay, well, let's break it down so it's much more manageable. Because if I say to you, I want to lose 10 kgs, that sounds like a lot. But I'm like, okay, let's look at the time frame realistically. So let's say 3 months. So if we had to break down 10 kgs over 3 months, then that's like about 3.5 kgs a month, which sounds a little bit more reasonable and doable, right? As opposed to 10 kgs. Yeah. And I go, okay, well, if you want to get more technical, depending on how attention to detail kind of person you are, let's break it down per week. Because if you take on average, there's 4.3 weeks in a month, then that works out to just on a kg per week. Does that sound doable? Like, that sounds a whole lot easier. So when we break it down into smaller, much more manageable bite-sized chunks, and then we tick off those little goals as we go, the little successes, every little step or little success takes us towards the big goal. And it's much more easier to achieve that big goal than going, I'm focusing on, I have to lose 10 kgs.
Yeah, I have a thing that I just ask myself every morning: what is the one thing that I can do today in support of my vision? Just what is the one thing I can do today? And I think what's nice about this and what you said is that it keeps your mind busy with the good stuff. It keeps your mind busy with small steps, with recognition, with little achievements. And that is what you want to do. You don't want to keep your mind busy with the negative stuff and the fear creation. So yeah, that really works well. I also have little alarms on my phone. I have 7 to 8 alarms going off every single day at different times. And the one says, pop up, thank you. And the other one says 17 seconds. And the other one says visualize. And the other one says intention. Because what it does is you're just retraining your mind and you keep yourself occupied. And because we're so used to falling into the default frame of mind, when that alarm goes off and it says, now is gratitude time, you do gratitude at that time. It's just another helpful tool to help you to stay positive.
Yeah, and this is where you've got to put those little tools in place to set yourself up for success, to manifest or realize your goals or your intentions or your vision for this year. And you've got to find what works for you, because there's no one size fits all. So I see we've got a few minutes left. So I just wanted to find out if anyone else has any questions or anything they want to comment or add or ask us, or even just share how you go about setting your goals or your intentions or getting through tough patches. Let us know, because we can learn from you too.
Well, what I've started doing recently, like Michelle said, try and focus on the positive instead of the negative. And I must admit that lately there's obviously been like a lot of negativity going through my mind. So I fall asleep to positive affirmations now, which is a 3-hour, and every night before I go to sleep, it's 3 hours. I play it and then I wake up the next morning and it's like, okay. Then I find that helps me.
That's amazing. The last thought that you think at night before you fall asleep is the first thought you wake up with the next morning. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the last thought before we fall asleep? Because that will determine your vibe in the next morning.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's a nice one.
Talking about the tools that used to work for us that don't necessarily,
Gratitude.
they're not as effective as they used to. As a new one that I've come up with, or kind of, I don't even know where I came across it, but anyway, it came from somewhere. It manifested itself from somewhere. I might have read about it or don't know, but it's the pink balloon method. And whenever I feel myself having a negative thought or a negative thought coming into my mind or going down that rabbit hole, then I just picture a pink balloon in front of me with that negative thought or word or whatever it is on it. And I picture that pink balloon floating up into the air. And I go, pink balloon, pink balloon, pink balloon, and off it goes. And I'm sending it into the air. That's one of the tips I use.
You know what I love about this, and I think that is where we have to be grateful for things like global changes and pandemics, because we occupy our families and our homes with different things now. Before it was just a rush, and we didn't regard these things as important. And so for me, that's a big shift in relationships, in individuals, in families. Is that we've created a new certainty amongst the uncertainty, and that certainty is we have each other. That certainty is there are other things that's important. That certainty is we will survive.
Yeah.
So you reframe the uncertainty because you've grown to adapt and you've grown to learn so many new ways of living.
Yeah, and that it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Awesome. So Michelle, these webinars are always such fun, and before we know it, the time has come, and our discussion, and we could carry on the whole night talking about these things. So before we take up the last few minutes, if anyone else has got anything that they want to share or ask, please unmute yourself. Let's hear from you. Let's hear what works for you, because we can learn from you guys and girls as much as you can learn from us. And so let's help lift each other's vibrations and intentions and by sharing our tips and tools and knowledge.
People are quiet, they're listening.
We've either answered all the questions or they're shy. But we will share our details if there is something you want to ask us, or even if you want to ask anonymously, you just go into the chat group and ask it anonymously, and we'll answer it. So yeah. But Daryl, any sort of parting thoughts or comments from your side, and just in terms of what we've covered or touched, or anything that's kind of stood out for you?
Well, what stood out for me is the trail of thought. Keep your intention on the positive, especially when those negativity or those negative thoughts come in. And I'm going to try the pink balloon method. Yeah, so that's what has stuck out for me the most, because that's what I've been battling with the most, is this whole negativity and the energy around me and so forth. But yeah, but it's been great. So thank you to the both of you. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome, and thanks for joining us. And yeah, thanks to the others for joining us as well. We hope that you've got some insights, some tools to work with going forward. And if you do need any help, or you're not coping, you need a vibe buddy, please reach out to us. We're happy to help and support and share and lift each other up.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening and stay safe, and happy vibrations and intentions for 2021.